What is up, everybody? This is Julian Powers, or you can call me JP, and I'm representing JP Fitness. And today I'm here to talk about different types of resistance and how you can use them to, again, further break plateau, switch things up. And maybe you can find a different way to train that'll apply more to your style of training if you're an athlete or you're a bodybuilder or whatever it is that you do. But starting out, we're going to talk about free weight training, and again, this is the most known, this is the most done. Obviously, if you're someone in the gym and you do this, I guarantee you do. The main thing to keep in mind with free weight training, and what's basically to sum it all up, is that when the lever is perpendicular to gravity, or a different way to say it, when the lever is perpendicular to gravity, or when the weight is furthest horizontally from the axis, is when the exercise is going to be the hardest. For example, on a bicep curl, or if I were to pick up this weight, right now the weight is fairly close horizontally to the elbow, so it is easy. Right now there's no tension on the muscle. On top of that, the lever is parallel with gravity, so again, it's easy, it's not hard. But as I come up, right about here, the lever is perpendicular against gravity, and on top of that, the weight is furthest horizontally from the axis that it's going to be throughout this movement. As I come back up, it's getting closer horizontally to the elbow. So that's when it starts to get easy again. So this applies to anywhere, barbells or dumbbells, any move that you do. Think about a bench press. Up here, where the humerus is like pretend I'm laying on a bench, but when the humerus is parallel with gravity, it's not that hard. As you start to come down, right about here is that sticking point that if you fail at a bench press, you're going for your max. When you come up to right about here is where you're going to get caught. That's because the humerus is completely perpendicular to gravity, and that's where the most tension is going to be at. That's where it's hardest at. So keep that in mind when you're lifting dumbbells or barbells. Similar to this in a way, but still different, is body weight training. Again, body weight training, depending on where the lever's at, like for example, in a pull-up, down here, the humerus, pretend I'm grabbing a bar, but down here, the humerus is parallel with gravity. As you start to pull yourself up, this is where it's going to be the hardest because the humerus is perpendicular to gravity. And as you come up, get your chin above the bar, again, the humerus is starting to transition to being parallel with gravity again, and it gets easier. A good way to test this out yourself is to hold yourself for as long as you can in each of these positions. I guarantee you it's going to be hardest right here if you were to hold yourself the longest. Again, it's because the humerus is perpendicular with gravity. The difference between bodyweight training and free weight training, though, you may be asking, well, if those are the same, what's the difference? The difference is that bodyweight training is much more functional. Again, I don't care who you are, as a human being, you have to move. Obviously, you get up, you pick things up, you go to your car, you go to work, you do whatever it is you do. And if you don't know how to efficiently and safely move your body, then you're going to eventually get some type of injury. It could be a little injury like low back pain, or it could be a big injury like an ACL tear or something like that. But lifting weights, again, can definitely, don't get me wrong, free weights can definitely help you be more functional depending on your train. But bodyweight training is the best way to do that. You know, it is the best by far, and that's what it prevails in. Bodyweight training isn't so good at like absolute strength training. Again, you can definitely make bodyweight training hard, don't get me wrong. People who say you can't gain muscle with bodyweight training don't know what they're talking about. But if you're going for absolute strength, like if you're trying to be like a power lifter, bodyweight training is not going to help you reach those higher levels or something. On to the next one, which is cables. Cables are the first real one which changed the tension and changed the strength curve. The main difference between cables and the first two is that cables have constant tension. If you think about when you put a pin in a weight, like on a cable machine, let's just say you put the pin in at 30 pounds, and you see the little plate stack right there. Depending on wherever the cable is at, it could be for chest flies or a cable curl. The second that you put any tension on the cable, you lift that entire little weight stack up off from the other weight stack, from the other little weight plates. The second it comes up, you are lifting that entire weight. So if it was 30 pounds, you could, let's just say I'm doing a curl with the cable right here, and I have the bar attachment, and I lift it up a little bit. The second I lift it up, I'm undertaking the entire load of 30 pounds that I selected for that cable. Why? It's because the weight stack is going against gravity, not the cable itself. So unlike free weights and body weight training, where you have to actually think of the lever against gravity and how much force it's going to apply, cables, because the weight stack is always against going always against gravity, you're always going to have constant tension depending on whatever exercise you pick. So that's the biggest difference. Also too, depending on the type of machine cable that you use, some are more limited than others, you can change the direction of force. For example, if you put the cable overhead, you can turn around and do tricep extensions. If you put the cable below, you can do bicep curls. If you have a cable on each side, you can do chest flies, depending on whatever you want to do. That is the biggest difference between cables and the first two. Now, kind of like cables is resistance bands. Resistance bands, the main thing about them that's like cables is the fact that you can change the direction of force wherever you want. For example, you could put a resistance band above you, attached to something above you, and then you can do lat pull downs with it. Or you could put it, step on it, and then do bicep curls with it. You can basically do whatever you want with it. The biggest difference with resistance bands from the other three that I talked about is increasing tension. The further you stretch a resistance band, the harder it gets. Unlike cables, which are constant, and unlike free weights and body weights, which depends on how the lever is compared to gravity. So basically, on a bicep curl, right here would be the hardest for dumbbells. Same thing for body weight training. Again, if you're right here, it's perpendicular. But on let's just say you have a resistance band attached above you and you're trying to do a pull-up, it's not hardest right here. It's hardest down here because this is where the resistance band is stretched the most. Another example, if you're doing a bicep curl, you're stepping on the resistance band, you come up, it's harder. It's not hardest right here like it would be in a barbell and a dumbbell curl. Go up. It's hardest right here is because this is where the band is stretched the most. So again, the strength curve is a little bit different from the rest. The main bonus, in my opinion, for resistance bands is ease of use and the fact that they're cheap. A resistance band, unlike the other three, are obviously body weight, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about compared to free weights and cables, is you can take them anywhere. And that's where kind of body weight training is good too, but resistance band, you can take it anywhere you want. You could put it in your pocket. I mean, you could put it in a little bag if you want. If you're a trainer that's on the go, you're a trainer that travels, a personal trainer, then you can bring a few different resistance bands with you, and then you got a whole little mini gym on you, and and also too, it's cheap. It's cheap. You could buy resistance bands. If you don't have that much money to go to the gym, pay monthly fees, or you don't have enough money to buy a ton of different weights of dumbbells, you can buy 3 or 4 resistance bands for under $100, probably even under $50 if you really found some good ones, or you bought it off somebody. And again, it's easy to use and it's cheap. The last two, you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but these are the least used and least seen that I've ever seen in the gym. I've seen them, but one I actually really haven't seen at all, but you could still use them. The first one is manual resistance, and this is resistance applied to you by another person. For example, if you're sitting down and your partner stands behind you and they place their arms right here on you and you're going to do a lateral raise and they apply tension so it's hard for you to come all the way up and you have to slowly control the negative and they are applying tension the entire time, it's going to be hard. What makes it really hard though is that, for example, if you pick a dumbbell up and you pick a weight, eventually, let's just say you pick your 10 rep max. You get to 9 reps and it's really hard, and you get to 10 reps and you're shaking and it's hard, and then you're done. You can't do no more because it's your 10 rep max. Manual resistance, it's easily adjustable tension. So if you're getting close to failure on one rep, the person what can they do? Can they just go easier? They won't apply as much force on you, so you can continue to do reps. So because of this, you can give maximal effort on every lift. For example, they can start it off at a 2 rep max for manual resistance. They'll apply enough resistance on your shoulders for a lateral raise that you can only do 2 reps. Then once you do the 2 reps, they can just lighten up the weight, let you do another 2 more, lighten it up, let you do another 2 more, to the point where you're just doing your arms. They're not even doing no resistance anymore. So you can really apply maximal effort with that. Note though, with manual resistance, some exercises I would not recommend doing it with, and then some can be awkward, so you don't want to do it. Like, how would you do a manual resistance for a deadlift? That's not very optimal. It'd be extremely awkward, and it could be unsafe, and there might be balance issues and squats and things like that. But for more isolation exercises, I guess you could say, yeah, manual resistance is pretty good. The last one, which is similar to resistance bands, is chains. You've probably seen these before. Maybe athletes do them. I see a lot of athletes do them, or powerlifters. But chains, let's talk about in a squat. If you have a bar on your back and you have a chain on each side, when you are standing up, you are basically lifting, depending on how long the chain is, you are lifting a good amount of the chain. You know, you're basically from here, wherever your height is, down to the ground. That's how much of the chain you are carrying in weight. Now think about the chain when I start to go down. When I go down in a squat, more of the chain starts to hit the ground. More of the chain starts to hit the ground, which means I'm carrying less of the weight of the chain. So similar to resistance band is that the more I shorten the muscle, the harder it gets. So for example, when I go up on a chain, when I come up, I'm lifting more of the weight of the chain myself. So the higher I go up on a squat, or for a bench press, the higher I go up on a bench press, I'm starting to lift more of the chain. So in essence, when you are weaker, the chain becomes easier. So on the bottom of a squat and the midpoint of a squat, you are holding less of the weight of the chain. So ultimately, that's a good one that you can use to, again, manipulate the strength curve. Now, with all of these free weights, body weight, cables, resistance bands, manual resistance, yeah, you can do that too, and chains, you can combine these. If you're like, wow, these are all good things to do, don't even stop yourself from thinking thinking outside the box. You can combine these to make really odd strength curves and to really break plateaus. Sorry about that. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, but is to break past plateaus. You guys should break past plateaus, break past plateaus, break past plateaus. It's a tongue twister. But what you should do is, for example, you can apply, like on a bench press, you can put chains on each side if you have them, or you can do resistance bands. Put resistance bands on the bench and then attach them and wrap them around to the bars on each side. Then put a light weight for the plates, like put plates. Depending on how much you lift, put light weights, though, really light. Like if you're benching like 225, only put a 45. If you can bench a 45, then put like 10s or something. And then on top of the resistance bands or the chains, whatever you pick, and the bar and the weight itself, you can have someone do manual resistance, lightly press on the bar and keep you struggling throughout the entire movement. Or you can just have like for example, you can have for a lateral raise, you can have resistance bands in your hands and you can have dumbbells in your hands. So as you come up, it gets really, really hard, and as you come down, it gets a lot easier. Or you can apply, like for example, you could do like with the body weight, this is a good one too, and this is not even to make it harder. Think of it like this. You probably done this before. If you're doing pull-ups, you use a resistance band to make a pull-up easier. So if you're using a resistance band to make a pull-up easier, why can't you use a resistance band to make things harder? Think about it. You could do the reverse. So sometimes resistance bands, and these can be used to help you on a certain aspect, but sometimes they could be used to kind of hinder you to make it harder so you can continue to see strength gains. Again, this is just a good idea of what you can do. Instead of just doing free weights or just doing body weight training, you can use all of these to break past plateaus. I got it right there. And continue to see growth, make those gains. I mean, that's the whole point of working out at the gym. If you like this video, please go down there, like it. Do me a big favor, I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe and share this video to your friends. Again, I'm going to be releasing frequent content. I'm trying to put videos out that you guys want. If I start getting more comments down below, I'll start talking about those types of things. But I'd really appreciate it if you share this. Again, I love doing this stuff. It's my passion. Again, I'm your online personal trainer. So until next time, peace.